Hello, it's Stuart, Unrepentant Atheist, back with another clip. First of all, do you remember this guy? Listen very carefully to the accent.
The intelligent designer is actually God.
Okay. And what evidence do you have that this intelligent designer exists and actually does anything?
At the moment, he's allowing a satanically run system. And the proof or the evidence is in text form, which is the Bible, and the proof is the fulfilled prophecy.
Okay, see if you can remember that accent. It's Edward calling from London. Okay, so we've got Scott calling in. This episode went on the 12th of February, 2023. And Scott's calling in to argue that in the Bible, slavery and genocide can be justified. So let's just listen to what he's got to say and also listen to his accent.
Hi, yeah, I'm in Poland, not California. I don't
Slight
know.
difference. Sorry about that.
I think.
Who said did I say California?
You did. You said California.
I wonder why.
Yeah.
Go on. Sorry
Stop the chit chat and get on with it.
about that. Sorry about that. Scott, tell me what you mean.
I think, yeah, well, the Bible to me is a mishmash of fact and fiction. Okay, so if we took part of it as fact and said, yeah, there was slavery and genocide.
So do you agree with me? Same accent as Edward. Sounds like a London accent. I'm guessing maybe sort of Croydon area. What do you think? Any of you guys out there who have got on English accents? I'd be very interested to know. They sound like they're from the same region of London.
If our morality is subjective, and for instance, as I said to the person before, if for England to survive, Europe had to go, then Europe has to go. I think that also proves that the possibility of God is incredibly slim, because it's an evolutionary process where we are animals and part of our instinct is to protect our own. And
well, the basic survival of the fittest argument. But I think that we're going to move on towards the end of this call, because he does babble quite a bit and he's not really making a lot of sense. So we're going to come closer to the end of the call. Okay, so I've moved on. So he's made his case effectively that slavery and genocide can be justified throughout history, because it's all about protecting the tribe and the preservation of the tribe, etc. And I moved on because Johnny has said something quite sensible in response to this, and here we go.
Okay.
I'm an atheist, by the way. So
I saw that. Yeah, let's let the audience know that we haven't said that.
I wonder why that's relevant.
That Scott is an atheist. I don't think that. I know we've had this call a bunch.
In other words, go easy on me because I'm on your side.
Bunch of times. We have so many times talked about that there may be some justification, or callers have made the argument that there's some justification for slavery. Usually it's coming from a theist caller who wants to defend the faith in some way. But just because something happens, Scott, I just don't see how that's justification for it. The fact that human beings might do it to preserve their clan out of some desperate need to maintain their culture, I don't think that it's justifiable. I think it's just something that people would do. I think it's abhorrent, and it's tribalistic, and it externalizes the humanity of others for the purpose of preserving your individual way of life. I just don't think that there's any justification whatsoever, whether it's in the Bible or not, for treating a human being as a means and not an end in themselves. And just because some Bronze Age semi-savages may have justified it, and it worked for them, and the culture influenced Christianity, and Christianity is dominant right now, I just don't think that counts. So is that really what you're saying, or have I got you wrong?
No, well, obviously he's got him absolutely right, and of course, on the basis of what he's arguing, you could justify all the horrors that the Romans did to people, all the crucifixions and executions, etc., in order to support their tribe and their progress as part of their survival, because it was a very barbaric time. So, with the secular morality standards that we've got now, based on well-being, you couldn't argue that any of those acts at any time in history were moral. So we're going to move on to more towards the end of the call, where it starts to get a little bit more weird. Okay, so this argument that he's trying to use this to say that there's no God. He's saying that effectively, because we live by evolutionary processes, survival of the fittest and everything, it proves that there's no God. And Phoebe's going to ask a fairly sensible question.
Or try to do whatever they could to get out of the bondage, and survive and make sure that their people.
Yeah. But Scott, I've got one more question.
I still think it's abhorrent.
Scott, I got it. Hold on. Phoebe's got a question.
I've got one more question.
Yeah.
How are you joining the dots here? Join the dots for me, because I'm slightly not following. How are you joining the dots from your moral standpoint and hypotheses and positions that you're putting forward here today, and it therefore being that God does not exist? Join the dots for me.
Well done, Phoebe. You said something very sensible there. You asked a very good question, because I don't know if it's her first time on here, but she's been a little bit inconsistent.
Join the dots for you. Well, I believe that anything that is complex on top of an easy explanation doesn't need to be there. You don't need extra layers of stuff. So, for instance, there are other, if you observe...
Well, he's referring to Occam's razor, isn't he? Where you don't need to add entities, and that the simplest explanation, which fits all the facts, is the most likely one. What that has got to do, how that is joining the dots, I'm not really too sure.
Nature, there are other animals that will,
But medical science is very complicated. Are you saying we don't need the complex layers of that?
Yeah, I don't think that Phoebe is familiar with Occam's razor, but it doesn't matter.
As well.
What's complicated? Sorry, what did you say?
Medical science is very, very complicated.
Okay, we're going to move to the end of the call. Okay, here we are getting towards the end of the call. He's meandering around really, and throwing out all sorts of weird stuff in response to this question, quite reasonable question from Phoebe to join up the dots. But okay, so let's finish it off.
Coming across and having a philosophical conversation, not everyone gets.
Yeah, he's made the statement just now, which you've not heard, that 95% of the population are not biologists and scientists, and that we need to dumb it down a bit in order to understand.
It's at the top end. A lot of us want it a lot simpler, and the simplest way or for me, right, my understanding of it is the fact that
I love the look on Johnny's face. He's like, oh God, how do I stop this? How do I move on? He's completely lost patience.
Everything that we are doing now, when we are drilling inward, we are testing things that are observable in the universe. So behavioural studies, if you go back to Pavlov's dogs or whatever you want to do.
All right, Scott,
hang on. Please let Johnny say something.
Scott, I appreciate your call. I guess
it is bizarre that every time somebody calls in from England, well, he's calling from Poland, but you know what I mean. It's such a kind of intelligent call, unintelligent call.
So, no offense, but this is not earth-shattering conversation here. We don't think that God is real either, or at least we're not convinced that God is a thing. We're
as I say, if you have evidence of God, convince me.
Yeah, but
Phoebe, did you listen at all? Are you on board that actually he's an atheist?
But Scott's an atheist, so you're calling to say that. I just don't get it, Scott.
I don't blame you, Johnny. You don't want to go back over that absurd territory.
Appreciate you calling. We're going to move on.
Okay. Well, that's it, really. Quite a strange call, really. But anyway, it happens on the Atheist Experience. You get all sorts of people coming in. I only really picked up on that because I noticed his accent and Edward's were very similar, and they were also two incredibly dumb calls. That's all I've got to say. I'll be back again soon with another, hopefully, better clip for you. Bye for now.